Hey there, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Revolutionary Health. Revolutionary Health is a program of the Counter Narrative Project, and the mission of the Counter Narrative Project is to build power among Black gay men and to work in coalition and solidarity with all movements committed to racial and social justice. You can find us online. We're everywhere. You can find us on Twitter at Building Desire. You can find us on Facebook at Counter Narrative Project and on Instagram at The Counter Narrative. So, you're joining us here on YouTube. I hope that you've hit the subscribe button. If you haven't, go ahead and hit that button now, as well as hit the thumbs up button and let us know how much you love the video. And go ahead and share it with your friends. Let them know that you are joining us. So, my name is Johnny Cornegay. I have the pleasure of being the mobilization director for the Counter Narrative Project, and I'm joined with
Anthony Antoine.
Hey, who are you, Anthony?
I'm Anthony Antoine. Google it.
Oh wow!
No, Anthony Antoine, an activist freak, an artist and activist, and living my life.
Yes.
I'm Daddy Rod. Also, my DJ name is DJ Rodney Love. I'm a Leatherman. I'm a sex advocate.
BDSM.
I thought you were,
BDSM and all of that good stuff.
Google it.
Yes.
DaddyRod.com.
Yes.
There you
I'm David Malbranch.
Mm.
go. The illustrious David
Yeah.
Malbranch.
Hey y'all.
Uh,
I don't have anything catch you.
You know, can nothing
Oh,
catch you
I don't have
today?
any quick queen quips today. I don't have anything to nothing for y'all.
You can Google. You can Google
All of us.
Yes.
Right.
for real. So today, y'all, is going to be an incredibly special conversation. Before I tell you what it is, because I know you already know what it is, but go ahead and you can chat with us. So there's a little chat box, which is right there on your screen. Go ahead and click the chat button. Interact with us. Ask us questions. We will do the best that we can to get to all of the questions this evening. But we are talking about something incredibly special tonight. So we titled this House Music is Freedom. And okay, so there's a particular reason why I picked that as like a title. So story time. I moved to Atlanta in 2010, wanted to leave. I hated my job. It was like a whole thing at that moment, right? My job later got better. But anyway, showed up at this party called Tambor. And one particular night, Osunlade was DJing.
You want to explain to the people?
Yeah,
who
who was
don't know?
also in that?
Yes. Amazing producer, artist. In fact, you have heard Jay-Z and Beyonce on the DJ Khaled cut actually sampled Dion, which was an Osunlade cut. So yeah, go and check. I can't remember the name of the song now.
Google him.
Yeah, so Google it. So at the party, and was just dancing, and there was one moment where he was playing this track called Thrill Her, which was just like by this artist named Jack Sun. It was just like a Thriller remix, but it was crazy. Somewhere like halfway through, he smashed in Controversy by Prince.
Come on now. Yeah.
No one saw it coming, but the room
Went up.
physically lifted.
Yes. Yes.
Where everybody in the room
Yes.
was like somewhere else.
Yes.
A spiritual realm.
Yes. So we call this House Music is Freedom because house music was where, and on the dance floor in particular, was where I learned how to just be.
Yeah.
And just be and not give a damn. So that's where I want to start. So my question for us as we jump into this dialogue, when did you fall in love with house?
Wow. When did I fall in love with that?
That sounds like brown sugar.
It does.
Yeah.
When did you fall in love with
We could do a
hip-hop?
whole movie on
We
that.
really
like,
could.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just take a step back and just even honor that, like, house music is like for us, by us.
Right.
So it was like, even if it was really performed in Black gay clubs, and even if the DJs, many of them were Black and gay, but even if they weren't, they were likely gay. A few straight ones that popped through, but it was still
Mainly
music
gay.
for us,
Right,
by us.
right.
And so this is like the backdrop. This is the soundtrack for many of us, especially at my age, is the soundtrack of our coming out. And why I love that you titled it House Music is Freedom. For many of us, we didn't get to have that freedom until we made it to the club and until we got to hear house music.
Right.
And then for me, it would be Loretta's. You know, so I made it to Atlanta. There was a few time periods before that, but when I was immersed and fell in love with house, it would have to be like 1995 here in Atlanta. There was the Loretta scene. And the thing about Loretta's, and we talked a little bit about this, like there's a point in which if you're immersed in house music where you hit a zone and it's something else. It's not just music anymore. You're not just in the place that you're in. You're someplace else. And for me, it would be like 1995 Loretta's. And then for me, it was also, which was a little bit controversial at times, but people didn't like when they would mix gospel music with house.
I love a gospel
house.
That's
the foundation of house music.
But keep in mind, there were some people who were like, I don't know if we should be doing this. No, I went in. And so when you gave me some gospel with a house beat, it was.
And the kids who were at the house club that night were actually on their way to church.
Right
after they left
that
the
was
club.
But keep in mind,
transition.
but that was part of the dialogue. There were some people who were like, oh, I don't know if we should be doing this. Now when we reflect back on it, we understand what that meant. But at the time, there was dialogue around that.
Exactly.
For
me, I try to learn the history of house music first. So I think we can all agree the house kind of got its birth from disco. Then from disco, it migrated to the gay clubs in Detroit, Chicago, where it kind of got into the electronica to a degree. But for me, how I got into house, and I'm going off when I'm from the Bay Area, for me, it was more of a healing. And I only say that because we're of all of age where we know when the mid 80s was when the AIDS epidemic really started to hit. So starting going to the Black Gay Prides in the late 80s to early 90s.
Oh, wow.
I would go to the clubs to hear the house music. And again, it was at the freedom, because again, I was like, oh my God, I'm hearing this music. It was uplifting, it was about love, it was about being yourself. But it was also in the fact of healing in a way, because at that time when so many of our brothers and sisters were dying, we didn't know if we were going to see them again at the next Pride event. So coming back to another Pride, if you saw them, it was a blessing. But if not, if you had the right house music song, you was like in church, because you would think about them, or others you probably didn't even know, but God, you hated seeing them leave. So for me, it was like the late 80s, early 90s. And everything's in timing, because that was also the time when it actually became somewhat mainstream.
It was a very
so house was really just like and that's how I got into. That's when we met. When I was at Tuskegee, he was at Emory.
That's crazy.
And God, we've known each other that long.
That's a long time.
So it's that's what it means for me.
Yeah, for me, I think it started in college, and I used to DJ radio and clubs at Princeton in New Jersey, and we had a group that went around. There were 4 of us. We ended up calling ourselves FOPO DJs, FOPO, because we say FOPO DJs, right? That's FOPO. We just started, and shout out to Mark Holman, who's from Willingboro, New Jersey, one of my dearest friends from a long time ago. He's one of the best DJs I've ever heard in my life, as far as house music, hip hop, anything. Mark could do fucking anything on a turntable. But I remember 1989, like taking the Princeton Junction train and going to New York City, taking it from Princeton Junction to Princeton stop, and then taking it to New York City and going to tracks during the middle of the week. I think it was Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights. Right? It was free, huh?
In the Bronx, right?
No. It was right in Manhattan, and it was free. It was free. Bronx had like the warehouse, and there was also the Octagon and clubs like that. But like tracks was it for me, and then there was also a place called
Potato.
Brighter Days. Two Potato was a little club. So like there were a lot of these places in there. But I remember going to tracks, and I remember. And we've talked about this before, I think even on this show, like my first experience was going up on the floor, and I was so amazed at seeing like all these black gay men at the club. Then looking down, I remember the song was playing was Alicia Myers, I Want to Thank You.
Baby.
And it was like church over there, but we literally got into the house tone of this in the late 80s to early 90s. But it came from me when I started at Michigan State University. I used to drive from East Lansing, Michigan to Detroit and go to the nightclub Heavens. And there was a DJ over there named Ken Collier who was so ridiculous. And I remember Frankie Knuckles was big at the time, so the song Work Out was big.
Yes.
And I remember, like, you used to just go there. You weren't trying to drink or hit on anybody. It wasn't trying to pick up anybody.
Yeah.
But literally everybody was just dancing. And it was like, it was such a different atmosphere. Yeah, it was such a different feeling back then. And the DJs were just so amazing. And it is one of those things where, like, if you do DJ, it's really an art form. And like nowadays, like, they control the pitch. And so you just have to press a couple buttons and then you can mix songs in. But like back then you had the pitch controls so you had to like manually figure this shit out. And you knew if you hit a mix and you could bring something in on the low and like the whole crowd would go up, or if you hit a mix and it sounded like horses galloping, and it would be like this thing stopped. And so it was all that like wrapped into one whole experience, but it was like organic. It was spiritual. It was church. Like, and you could be on the dance floor, and I know you can attest to this, Johnny. Like, you could be dancing by yourself. Like people think that kids nowadays just started like dancing by themselves, but like back then you could go to a house music club and just sit there and get in your own zone, and literally like there would be sometimes when I'd be dancing and my eyes would feel like they'd roll in the back of my head, like I'd lose track of where I was, if the song was right, if the mood was right, if everything was right there. So it was really like a healing thing back then.
Oh my God. I want to bring in a comment. So Jarrell says, hello, brothers. Looking forward to another great episode. Hey, Jarrell. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, please use the chat box. Any questions or comments. When did you fall in love with house? What was your first experience with house? We want to hear from you and bring that into the conversation. And make sure that you go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button. So, okay. Feeling. So everything that we just described is like the feeling. When I think about today and where we are today, why do we need music experiences like what we just talked about today?
I think there's a way we just have to continue to tell our stories, and that there's a history that if we, I'm a little older, and so now, there are a lot of people, I love, television shows like Pose that does give a little context for some of the music and some of for the new generation to catch up to like what happened in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I think there's a way we have to continue to tell our stories. It's really important. And the way we all just got excited about it. You know what I mean? Like there was a way in which that just meant so much to our history. So we have to continue to do
and
that.
I think you were just talking, I just thought about it. Like, I had a tough time at Michigan State when I started in medical school, and I almost failed out after my first year. And I remember the remix for Brighter Days. Kashmir.
Absolutely.
And for those of you that are listening, but
you got to look these songs up.
Kashmir,
right.
And it's I think is it the Underground Goodies mix, or it was some kind of mix, but it was a dub mix, but it's called Brighter Days. And I can't tell you the amount of times I would be on my bicycle or driving in my car and listen to that song because it was so uplifting. And it was, obviously the derivative was from house or from church music, and from gospel, and the singers were very gospel. If you think about 10 City, like those guys. Like, and so I think about the songs and how they lifted me up, and like during times where I was really like having a tough time, like house music always brought me through it. It brought me out of that funk.
Mine would be Inner City, Good Life.
Good Life.
Like Good Life got me through.
Yeah. Barry Detroit, Kevin Saunderson, shout out.
But you got to also remember too, everything's in timing, because that was also the time of the 90s when it became mainstream.
Right.
So like, we can all remember Mariah Carey. She would literally have her
amazing house
and then her remixes would be ridiculous.
Back into the studio, house mix, where the kids would literally fall to the floor.
Yeah.
But yet it was just uplifting. Or it was just like, what?
Yeah, I remember one of the best remixes I've ever heard was Fantasy was off the chain.
Fantasy was just like
But actually, you remember the song by Janet Jackson and Luther Vandross. They
did it. Best Things in
Life for Free. David Morales
he
did a remix for that. And I remember hearing that in the Sound Factory bar. And when he just kept looping the beginning.
We can go like,
but the best remixes.
Wait, no, we can.
And the crowd would just be lifted up, and then when he started to bring the beat in, like everybody would just explode and go crazy.
We're gonna start pulling out trump cards because I know you got one and I got one. Go ahead. Well,
go ahead. I want to bring in a historic thing. There's someone in this room who has a connection to the music video for that. Am I right about that? Alvin, did you
video?
Yeah. See, okay, so there's a lot of history in this room. The Best Things in Life for Free video. Alvin, yes, history.
Yeah.
Our producer, Alvin.
I'm not on camera.
This will be the post log.
Yes.
For the video that didn't have Janet or Luther inside of it because they weren't available.
Right.
Okay.
You pull out the trump card.
Okay, so like a perfect example of good songs that hit a very was Sade's remixes.
Okay.
They were very underground.
Yes.
But like Haunt Me. Mm-hmm. And what was that other one from Sade?
Woman from Somalia?
Pearl.
Oh, we talked about
Yes.
That was classic. And then for us, I'm not from Chicago.
Yeah.
But Shantae Savage.
Absolutely.
And remember for the longest I want that record from you. And he would never lend it to me. And it was Bet You'll Never Find It.
Shantae Savage.
And I was like, give me that damn mixtape.
I still have it.
For the internet, I was able to
you can find it on YouTube.
Because he would never get it to me.
You have it on vinyl now?
I do.
So,
my trump card.
Go ahead.
And we talked about like when house music went mainstream, and there are DJs that would be like, no, that's not real house. But like, and similar to the first episode of Pose this season, it was like, oh, Madonna's doing like, oh my God, they're finally going to care about us, and there's a whole like we can rather that. But mine was Diana Ross's remix CD. Like it was Frankie Knuckles. It was that CD. Like it was only like 7 songs. She did a remix CD in 1994, and like the best of DJs remixed her tracks. And I was like, House has like hit it. House has arrived. Like it's mainstream, and that CD is the business still to this day.
The best one, and God rest her soul, she just passed away a few months ago. Kim English.
She did just recently. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
That was 95.
Oh,
yes.
So the energy in this room is so high. And I'm going to bring in some comments. Thank y'all for, first of all, joining us. I'm going to look at the camera, but I'm going to read some of the comments. So I'm going to start with Houseman202, who said, I got saved again. Tracks, summer 1994, Bishop Cedric Minister.
Yes,
DJ Michael
Bishop
Song.
You got it.
Jarrell said, it was my junior year of college, and I heard a mix with Brandy. Let me see. And it was a full moon track. It allowed me to have a new beat and a new attitude. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that, Jarrell. Mm-hmm. Caleb said, my father would play 10 City and other Chicago house music when I was growing up. Morgan ML3, thank you so much for joining. In 1991, I was 11 years old. And they were playing house music late nights on the radio in Los Angeles. I loved it, but didn't know anything about it. We're going to talk about that in a second because there was a sea change. We're going to talk about what that meant for our community. And the last comment, Jarrell again, has a question. Do you feel that my generation, millennials, could grow to appreciate or value house music today? I feel that years ago, it served more value for the children rather than today. So I'm going to pose that question to the group. Do we feel like, and not just millennials, right? Like I'm thinking like future, like all of these generations, like is that a possibility? Can they appreciate it?
I think we know the possibility. Like we look at the TV show Pose, like do we know 10 years ago that there would be a show about the 80s and early 90s that talked about our community that could be a hit show? And we didn't see that, but now we have it. And so I think there's a way in which house music could be the same. Like there's a history that comes behind it. And there's a way that the younger generation could appreciate it.
But I think we cannot neglect the fact that venues which played a lot of house music are gone.
Yeah.
So we talked about Loretta's. Mm-hmm. Remember Pearl Garden?
Yes, absolutely.
And for those Ratchet folks, even the Marquette.
The Marquette,
baby.
The Marquette is still around.
Mark Wayne's still around.
That was me. That
Mark
was
Wayne's
me.
never
But, I
going
mean,
anywhere.
It's different.
Right, it's different. Yeah.
But think
That
about
was
like
me.
New York. All places are gone to New York.
Yeah.
DC, Tracks, The Edge, gone.
Yeah.
So those venues where we would congregate to hear that music is gone. And then at that time, you did have literally mainstream radio playing
house music
Right.
on the radio.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, even in the Bay Area, we had a show called Yo Mama's House
Mhm.
from 10 to 3 o'clock.
Mhm.
You get your life.
House.
And see, house music did become mainstream, and y'all remember CNC Music Factory.
Yeah.
So CNC Music Factory to me
Yeah.
was very big in like bringing it to the mainstream. And I
Absolutely.
remember for me,
Crystal
like
Water.
one of
Crystal
the
Waters,
one of the-
Robin S.
One of
Yeah.
the things,
Yeah.
Robin S was phenomenal. One of the tracks that didn't get a lot of attention was Michael Jackson had a
We
remix
taking you-
by CNC Music Factory
Yes.
for
You
Black
were
and
not-
White.
Yeah.
Oh!
So for Black and White, it was phenomenal, and it was nothing like the original song, and that was what was always wonderful about it. That's why Mariah Carey was such a beast with it, because
Right.
you could take a song that you could listen to the regular version and be like, it's okay. Somebody could remix the fuck out of that house version
Absolutely.
and absolutely give you the life that
Steve
you need.
Silk Curly.
Oh
my
God.
God, yes, Jam
like-
Silk.
But Frankie
yes.
Knuckles' remix of Rock With You
Yes.
from Michael Jackson. But that piano intro,
Yes.
Yeah,
So
Frankie Knuckles.
I want to do two things right now. So we have a lot of history in
Oh
this
my
room.
God.
So what y'all can't see is that Kevin Bryant is also in this room. Kevin Bryant is here, an amazing vocalist, house legend, all of that. Hearing from you, what does house music mean to you? And I know you're off camera, so I want you to speak up.
Want to
We
bring
want
him
to
on
know.
camera? Come on,
Good.
Boo.
Get-
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yes.
We gotta get him
Come
in.
on, come.
Special
Yeah,
guest.
yeah.
Because he was going in over there.
Yes.
Hey,
Hey.
hey. But no, what house music means for me?
Yes.
It's interesting that you asked that because I started out in neo soul, R&B, and I was with all the other artists singing background, and everybody always wanted me to do house music.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it because I didn't understand it, and I'm from Jersey.
Right,
But when
right.
when I came to the South, it was something totally different. So when I would see it, I was like, oh my God. So I would go to all these talent shows and stuff, and I was like, you need to do house music, you need to do house music. Loretta's you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first place that gave me a shot to sing. I was singing R&B music in the clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And tracks gave me my first legs to stand on. So I just gave into it. It's the house music. And when I gave into it, I realized it made me sort of free.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
that's
so
how
much.
I started doing house music. And I got signed to Strictly Rhythm
Yeah.
in 96.
Nice.
And my
Nice.
first record was Any Love. Shaka
Yes.
Khan remake. Yep.
Come on.
Hang out. So I'm going to bring in some comments. Trey said, I discovered house when it went mainstream. So in the early 90s as a kid, I bought every maxi single I could find
That's
because there were a
right.
ton of them. I first experienced it in the club, in Tracks, my freshman year of college in 1999. So my first experience, David, you talked about this a minute ago.
Mhm.
It was in DC. It was the Delta Elite. It was like one entrance in and one entrance out, baby.
Right.
That building.
Baby. And I went up in there and it was my first club. I walked in and it was just bodies and music and house, and I didn't know what
Mm-hmm.
to do. But what I did know is that I was different after.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I was really, really
Yeah.
different
Yes.
after. So let's talk about so this is revolutionary health, right? I think of house is good mental health for me.
Music is my
It's a
drug.
recharge.
Music is
Yeah.
my drug.
Literally.
Let's talk about that a bit. And unpack that. Like for me, like I said, I would have left Atlanta. I would have left Atlanta had I not found the house music community here and started going to some of the parties. Let's talk about why music is so important, and this particular music, why it's so important for our health and our mental health.
Well, I think we're all like, before you get to that place, you dream of a place of acceptance and finding your people. And that's what house music meant to me. So it helped to solidify like me staying around to get to, a world where revolutionary health exists and I can find my community. That's what house music was for me. It was a part of the journey to say, hold on, it's okay. It's going to be all right. You're going to get there. You're going to find your people.
And to piggyback off him, for me, I got into it. I started listening to it in the late 80s, but it impacted me in the early 90s when I had Tuskegee. Now, anyone know about Tuskegee? It's in the sticks of Alabama. I moved there from California, didn't have any friends or anything. I was going through a lot of depression and I attempted suicide. And I remember hearing a house music song on Alabama State radio station. I forgot what the song was, but it was very uplifting. And I said, this is it. It literally changed me.
Yeah.
And that's how I got hooked on house. So it was literally like my saving grace.
Yeah, shout out to college radio stations.
Oh my God,
because, I mean, you think about WCLK down here. And
because I had a house music show on that.
They play house music. That's what we did at Princeton. Like, we were at WPRB, and we did a house music show. We did Quiet Storm. But, I mean, to me, I think for Generation X, I don't know about baby boomers. Maybe it's disco with baby boomers. But, like, for Generation X, house soundtrack of our lives. And since house comes from church music, you think about the time period, like, AIDS was going on and just hitting. You were thinking people were starting to finally get comfortable about their sexuality and inviting people into that space. I like using inviting in rather than coming out.
Yes, inviting.
That's why I like better, like John Elmore kind of coined that, saying instead of coming out someplace, you're inviting somebody into who you are. But like that was the whole revolution that was happening at that time. And I think house music, the reason why millennials, like Jarrell asked, can millennials get it? I think they can get it, but it was a moment in time. Yes. And so you can't always get it. And it's like when people talk about Outkast and Goody Mob in Atlanta during a certain period of time. If you weren't there at a certain time,
it's a different perspective.
You can appreciate it, but it may not have the impact that it had for a lot of other people. So like music does that because it's a combination of you know, space and time and generation and where you were and what you were going through at that time. So I just know for me, I was finishing college, I was coming into my own, I was starting medical school, I was fucking shit up. I almost failed, but if it wasn't for DJing and house music, it wouldn't have brought me through. And so by the time I started to really get comfortable with myself as a person, by the time I got out of probation and wasn't about ready to fail out of medical school and made it through, like house music had like carried it through. And I could tell you specific songs, where I was, what I was doing. And how it kind of took me through. So I have a lot to thank to house music for. It was literally the soundtrack of my life back then.
Kevin, what about you? Like, why is, your feelings?
Well, house music helped me identify who I am.
Oh.
And because all the other genres, you have to be this person. You have to be this character. You have to, like, be profiled. House music allowed me to actually, it forced me to dig deep within myself and be Kevin. And that's how I did a record called Who You Want to Be. Well, just be, and you said it earlier. So it helped me do that. So the more that I delved into myself through this music, through my songs, it helped me be more of me. And that's how I became, I am Kevin Bryant. Like, I know who I am now.
I think it's because of what Anthony said, like it's for us, by us.
Yes,
absolutely. So we felt that, like when we listened to it. So when you listen to Devotion by 10 City, you're like,
they get it. They get it.
They get it. They understand, and they made this for us. So when you're listening to it, it's like, oh my God, this music's for me, and this can help me.
And like Little Louis.
Mentioned something else. You mentioned the room lift.
Yes.
I remember when I first got signed, I went to New York and they said, "Oh, we're gonna put you in the studio," and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to the studio," and it was like, "Oh, I get lifted, yes," and I'm
Yes.
And you literally felt like things were lifted.
Listen, y'all, like house music, so important, and I mean, definitely do some research. There are so many tracks and things that you're familiar with, even when we think of things that you experience in music today. Like there's house music just lives on in so much.
There's great house music out there right now.
Absolutely. And that's the thing to keep in mind too, is the music is still there and being made, and there's always great stuff.
And it's morphed into so much,
but
so many different versions.
More appreciation for it now is Europe.
Yeah,
like more so
really
than anything, like
Europe,
like
South Africa.
South Africa.
It was Chicago and New York for most of it, and Detroit, and Chicago, New York, and Detroit, and then all of a sudden it just kind of more, and the global community kind of started to more appreciate it as it kind of waned here, and like.
And then there's like house music in the park that's like traveling. Atlanta has a good community for that.
Absolutely.
Atlanta has a really good. Come to Sold Out next Thursday.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yes.
Thank you. So a couple of things to keep in mind. We are wrapping. Thank you all so much for joining for tonight's show.
It went fast.
I know, right? It blew by.
It's time over already.
Yes. Thank you so much for all of the comments. Yeah, right. Oh,
Are there any essentials that we should like?
Yes!
No, people who are interested in house music, like essential producers or artists
Okay.
that
Frankie
we
Knuckles
recommend?
is the godfather of house and first signed and find his stuff.
Byron
Like,
Stingley.
Frankie Knuckles.
Frankie
Stingley.
Knuckles.
Byron Stingley.
Byron Stingley.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still Steve Hurley.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
Okay, can we all
Absolutely.
acknowledge Louis Vega?
Louis
Yeah,
Vega.
Oh my gosh.
Masters at Work.
Masters
at Work.
So here's what we're gonna do. So Counter Narrative Project, we have one playlist. Let's create a house music.
Absolutely.
It's Freedom
I got it,
playlist
yes.
Can I
and
say
get
something real quick?
yeah.
Okay, for those who know, I DJ and
Yes.
I actually have all like
We have a
12
bunch of
remixes
Yes.
on my website, mixcloud.com
Mhm.
/DJ Rodney Love.
Yep.
You'll hear all kind of house music, gospel house, erotic house,
Yes.
every kind of house.
Since we're promoting,
Yes. Okay.
my 12th CD, Masters of Dance, dedicated to Frankie Knuckles. There's
Yes,
the
yes.
online version, that's my stuff. And then there's a remix project that I give out for free on bandcamp.com.
It'll be in the
Anthony Antoine.
comments.
I'll
I'll put all of these in the comments,
Mhm.
Kevin.
Same thing with me, Kevin Bryant. I am Kevin Bryant on everything. I have a new project coming out.
Yes.
Working on it now.
Yeah.
And look for people in it. Ray,
Yes.
who has a beautiful rendition of Angie Stone's record. So look out for the new people.
So much happening. So what we're gonna do is we'll make sure that we get a playlist together.
Yes.
I want to ask all of you too to contribute. So make sure that you get into the comments. Let us know what track should be in that playlist. But we'll go ahead and put that on our Spotify. We'll put it into the comments. So a couple of things that you need to do. Make sure you follow us on social media. Facebook, Counter Narrative Project, Instagram, The Counter Narrative, and Twitter at Building Desire. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button and go ahead and like this video. And make sure that you subscribe and share it. And we will be back here next week. We're going to be having a conversation about prep and research. So make sure that you come back and join us. I want to bring in this one last comment because I'm seeing this come up and we haven't talked about this club. Jules Catch One Disco
Oh, yeah.
is where
LA.
people
Yes,
found
sir.
people
LA.
like me
Yes.
during the hours that just wanted to dance. That was the first time I took my shirt off and felt free in the club.
Yes.
House music is freedom. I want to thank all of y'all for being here. I want to thank
you.
all of you for joining us. Have a great, great evening. Thank you so
Peace.
much.
Bye, y'all.
Okay.